Oh, we can? Okay. All right, we'll go ahead and get started. Welcome, everyone, to the November 11th Academy Lafayette monthly board meeting. Woohoo! Sorry, just had to get that out there. If you could put the agenda up there, I want to make a motion, or I need a motion to approve the agenda. Yeah, there it is, sorry. With one edit, we will not do this number 4, the sports teams recognitions. Today we'll do that next month, at next month's meeting. So can I get a motion to approve the agenda as seen with that edit?
So moved. Gwen Foss. Second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Any discussion? All opposed? All right, sorry. Someday I'll get that down. All right, I don't believe we have any stakeholders signed up for comments. Does anyone know? Okay, no. Okay, good. And then you all have the meetings in your board packet, and after you've reviewed those, can I get a motion to approve the October 4th meeting minutes?
So moved. Beth.
Second?
Second. Gwen.
All right. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, opposed?
Aye.
All right, motion carries. All right, governance.
All right, I'll let you start with the bonds agreements.
It's just an update. Bond agreement was approved by the board and was sent to KCPS. So they are supposed to approve by the board, I think on the 12th, so like that, and go today. So once they approve it, they sign it and send it back to us. Dana, do you have anything planned?
Was the issue of the language resolved, like the up to versus?
It was resolved. It's
Yes.
part of it. It's now set tomorrow.
That's exciting.
Dana, you're on mute if you're talking to us.
Dana, yeah.
Still on mute, Dana.
You're still on mute, yeah, okay. All right.
You want me to unmute you? Let me see if I can.
Do you want to do interpretive dance? No?
How do you unmute somebody?
I think
Yeah.
she has to unmute. I don't think we have the ability to.
Dana, you mute.
I'll figure it out.
We hear you.
Oh, look at me. I was going to say everything was submitted, and thank you all for all your hard work to get it there. So.
Thank you.
We have a quick reminder of the amount. So we came to an agreement on what's the amount we would get if the bond passes. What is that amount?
13,000.
13 million.
I mean, yeah, that's a little
We
different.
wouldn't do all this for 13,000.
It was, no, 13 million, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, just under 14 million.
And it goes up for a vote in April, and it will be a very active campaign to try to get it passed, which we will be involved in sort of informing families just to raise awareness, because that, yes, they've got the work cut out for them. But. Any other questions about the bond? Okay. The other piece was the training that everybody got the email. Hopefully you all had a chance to look at it. It was very detailed. They asked all board members to review. So I'll ask by email confirmation or just letting me know tonight confirming that you were able to watch it. It is more information than you could ever need to know about the Missouri Ethics Committee or the Missouri Ethics Commission. Everybody will get an email in January. It is important to pay attention to that and to complete that, and keep in mind all of the things they went over in the training, if that applies to you, to include that in your Ethics Commission submission. They are due by May 1, and if you don't, they will fine you, so make sure to follow all of those processes. The other piece.
And they find you personally, not the
Right, yes,
school,
it is
so.
you personally that gets that fine, and we'll do follow-up if we
Yes.
see that there are board members that have not successfully completed. The other piece was Sunshine Law. I know that is something that we go over each year, just a reminder of, as a board, how do we align with the Sunshine Law, with our committee meetings and with this meeting. Each of us are responsible for making sure our committee meetings are accurate on the website and the agenda is posted. You might have heard them talk about that. It is not sort of technically required because in most, I don't think any of our committees have a quorum, and technically Sunshine Law is just related to when you have a quorum, but I think the policy that we follow at Academy Lafayette is all of those are publicized, so if anybody ever wants to join those committees, they are free to do so. Because a lot of our work of the board does happen in committee, so we want to make sure we do those in a public way. As you all watch them, were there questions, thoughts that you all had related to the training, other than it was very lengthy?
I have one.
Yeah.
Who is our custodian of records? I know it used to be Carlos, and, you know, because it's been a while for me, but who
That's a
is?
good question, I have to go and find out what.
Okay.
Right, because you could let us know
Yeah,
that.
we do need to know. And then who posts our meetings?
Alex,
Alex on every, and now she's gonna need to do it on every door because you asked that question.
when they ask you for what
You asked the question, we don't just do it online, we also need to post it on.
when you ask the question.
You did.
Right, you did have at the end of the training, you were on there. But I mean, she said posting it on the website is fine.
But she did say it would be good to post it on the door.
At the door, what we used to do is we send the meeting agenda to the building managers to post it on their building. We just share them with them, they post it. But that's fine.
Yeah. And online.
The online is posted, I guess, not on the door anymore. And then remember, we used to email it to the parents, by the way. Why do we need to post it at the door? We're emailing it to the parent on Friday.
Well, the public.
Public don't go to our doors, they go to our.
But I think we are following what we need to as far as publicizing. So I think we do our due diligence.
I think so. It used to be simple, you just, I would drive around and post it or send it to people to post it. You remember, COVID changed everything.
Right.
And you might want to take note that webinar, whatever you want to call that thing,
Right.
it doesn't really start until about 10 minutes in, just so you know.
There's a lot of silence at the beginning.
I was thinking that I didn't have it, I wasn't doing something right.
It was not you.
Okay.
There are technical difficulties, I would say. Other thoughts, questions that came up as you all watched it? Okay. Thank you all for doing that. I know it was tedious for us.
You're being very official right now.
I know. It's a long way around.
I don't want to push Hallie out of the way. Okay, finance, so accounts payable. Things not working.
Something is not.
If you want to, yeah, if you want to just advance.
I tried it, but I'll improve it. Take it out.
Technical difficulties again.
Manually.
Remember when meetings used to be paper?
I used to love to scribble.
Me and Kristen talking.
This, I don't know what. Oh,
Okay.
cool, so, okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, so accounts payable, so it's just some highlights from the accounts payable transactions that were included in the whole set that was in that Excel file for here. We've got JoJo's Food Service. We paid them $57,000, almost $58,000. That was the September service actually, and then $72,000 was part of last year and part of the summer school as well as catch up essentially. There was a little bit of a billing issue there. They were submitting their invoices with invoice numbers that were duplicates, and so our billing software was kicking it out as a duplicate. So they're caught up now. Emmanuel Family and Child Development Center, paid them $34,000, and the way that works is they calculate it, and it's like an annual calculation is what they'll do, and so they did August and September. They submitted that in October, so we got those paid in October. Heartland Max, they were paid $25,000. There are 2 months worth of normal billing within that $25,000, which they're paid $5,000 each month. So September and October's invoice was included on this October transaction. So $10,000 of that $26,000 was for their normal billing, but then that $15,000 was for 20 Chromebook screens, that's repairs, 5 Chromebook carts, 10 MacBook Pros, 2 iPad carts, and then 10 USB-C docks. TransFinder Corporation, they were paid almost $20,000, and that's for that new transportation routing software. So we're looking forward to using that. I know there's training scheduled coming up on that, so hopefully we can roll that out January, perhaps. Any questions over accounts payable transactions?
Just, is the TransFinder, was that a one-time sort of purchase license fee?
License fee, and so annually it'd be $20,000.
Any other questions? All right, can I get a motion to approve the accounts payable transactions for
So moved.
October?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Second that.
Jen? Opposed? All right, motion carries.
The financial statements. Okay, so for the month of September, so we're looking historical data here. The SUI financial statements. SUI is Software Unlimited Inc., and that's our accounting package that we use for the school. So for September, from a cash in, cash out perspective, we received more than we spent by about $1 million during September. So cumulatively, if we're looking at July through September, we received more than we spent by about $689,000, almost $700,000. So we've caught up. Typically, we don't see that until January. And part of that difference stems with the higher per WADA, and I'll get to that here in just a minute, so the higher allocation per student that we're receiving. Third-party accountants, they also prepare financial statements for us, and so revenues were $5.7 million, expenses are $5 million, so a net of about $700,000. And that's what's represented here, and that's also included in their slides that they send out to us. But this also includes a forecast. I just wanted to just take a minute to also just talk about what EdOps prepares for us and how that process works. So they help us with the annual forecast projection. What they do is they look at what happens during the month and what's also happened year to date. And when you're flipping through the finance packet or the finance folder, there's an ALF supplement report, and that's an Excel file. And that has the year-to-date activity, and then it also has month columns with what we expect will be in the upcoming months, essentially, the projection. And so EdOps will look at trends that have occurred during year-to-date. They'll look at what we've budgeted, and we come up with a forecast with that. And they meet with me once a month to go over the forecast, essentially, and we go over grants that are expected. We discuss enrollment and what we're expecting there, variance in deposits, variance in expenses, and that's where we come up with the forecast or projection. And it's that middle column there, the $22 million, $22.4 million, that's the forecast, all the way down to the $21.5 million in expense. And right below that is net income of $862,000. And so that's what we're right now projecting to be. The June 30th number is $862,000 to the good. So just reiterating the same thing, we're projecting year-end financials to be at $840,000 above budget with an anticipated net operating income of $863,000. Overall, the annual forecast has improved compared to last month by $300,000, and that's primarily due to that state basic formula, the per WADA rate. They are still using a conservative amount of $12,850, but what we're seeing from what DESI's paying us is closer to about $13,300. So, like I said, that's a conservative estimate right now, but regardless, compare that to the budget of $12,440. That's why we're seeing such a large increase. Even if we're at the $12,800 or the $13,300, there's still an increase in state revenue per student, and so that's why we may be around $1 million to the good, and so in finance we need to block out some time to perhaps do a budget revision for just that $1 million to reallocate.
Stephen, can they just change that, or why is there a differential?
So the way that formula works, it includes Kansas City Public School, and there were waivers for pre-COVID, and so now that pre-COVID enrollment has dropped off, they have less students, and so the pie for the charters is a larger slice, and so it's been reallocated essentially.
Just the same pie, right?
Same pie, it's just redistributed because we have more students. Well, their student count has dropped, I should say.
So the KCPS got less money this year.
So perhaps, yeah. That's what it would appear, for lack of a better term. Any questions over those financial statements? And like I said, the 12,850 projection, that's not set in stone. We can give them feedback on what we think it's going to be, and so we probably will.
We anticipate it will still change more?
It could still change a little bit. Typically, you might see like $100 variance month to month once you get to November, or even maybe a $50 change month to month, but
Nothing as drastic as what we've seen.
or like the funding cliff, when that came in for us, that was a big increase. So this is just comparing month to month projection. Like I said, the $400,000 there, that's the increase in per WADA. They increased it from the 12.4 that we had budgeted. Again, month to month, just changes in the projection. Insurance renewal on the transportation. If you remember last month, the insurance on the buses came back $41,000 higher than what we had expected, and so that's one big change there. So, all right. So transportation costs and our comprehensive bus plan. So just want to spend a few minutes here. So this comprehensive transportation, we based it upon our 24-25 initial budget, and we identify costs that we need to more well round out the transportation. And what we mean by that is, when we first got into the transportation segment of business, it was kind of just dropped on us. We were just trying to get by, essentially.
Take a bus, any bus.
Take a bus, yeah. Get the students to school. And so we are, taking a breath and looking at this picture more well-rounded, I think is a good way to put it. And so we've identified some costs that we need, and that's the acquisition of 7 buses, 3 of the internal combustion engine buses, so ICE buses, 4 electric buses, which are part of the EPA grant and rebate program, and 3 activity vans, as well as electrification infrastructure. And the purchase of a bus lot. And so we estimate that these capital investments would cost about $1.2, $1.3 million. And that breakdown, just kind of putting it on to a time frame, they're not exactly in order, but give you kind of an estimate on the timing there. So we're hoping to buy maybe some 3-year-old buses, 3 years or less buses, the internal combustion engine buses. And so 3 buses, about $100,000 a piece, so $300,000 there. January through June of this upcoming year is what we would perhaps be able to do. Activity vans, we would like to purchase 3 activity vans to transport students for like the college trip that just went on at the end of this last month. They took a tour down to South Missouri, then to Arkansas, and visited college campuses. And so that would have been a good use of activity vans. Also, maybe the trip to Columbia for sports, cross country or track events that occur. We might be able to utilize some activity vans for those purposes. So that's what we're looking at as well. And then the electrification of for the electric buses, there's some capital infrastructure, and obviously there's a net cost in addition to the grants. And so that's about a $400,000, $355 purchase. That'd be around January 2026 is when we might be able to have 2 of those up and running. And then, of course, a bus lot to make us more like a transportation operating company to an extent. And so land, fencing, a portable building maybe, or like a bus barn, essentially, paving, gravel, security, that we're estimating that to cost about $452,000, so $500,000 essentially. So that's where the breakdown of 1.2, almost 1.3 million in investment that we've identified as costs. Something else that we looked at with the comprehensive bus plan is operational costs, including increased staffing costs and benefits, which if you're looking at that Excel that was shared out, it's the transportation P&L projection tab, and that's where those are captured. We're looking at a bus supervisor, not just a bus coordinator, as well as perhaps a mechanic as well is included in those costs. And then also there's some retirement benefits, and we may need to increase costs for that. We hadn't been capturing that, and we have bus drivers that we're going to regularly schedule over the 25-hour threshold per week, and so we need to be paying the retirement on those folks. We also analyze the cost savings for this comprehensive transportation plan compared to another bus contractor, and that would be Lexington Diesel's one that we had talked to previously, other than for student, and they charge $430 per route. And so with increasing routes based on increase in enrollment, there is a cost savings of about $1 million over a 6-year period. So you know, we also analyze that cost savings. That's located on the total buses tab if you're looking for that. And the last note here that I wanted to point out, and that is along the bottom, there are notes tabs, and that includes our research, essentially, just notes about where we came up with some of these costs. So look at those, and you know, if you have any kind of feedback, we're more than happy to get back with you. Any questions over the comprehensive bus plan?
So 1.2 million was the upfront cost, the additional upfront cost that we would need to take on currently in order to sort of take over all of our busing in the way we think it needs to happen.
Correct, yeah.
What's the yearly cost? I assume the yearly cost was factored in when you said it's $1 million savings over 6 years. I assume.
Yep. I don't have it on a slide here, but annual cost, and that would be 1.2 for this current year, 1.4 next year, almost 1.5, and it's about 1.5 continuing on for typical costs. Yep.
But I think you have that in the.
Yes, it's in.
Yeah.
It's one of the tabs there.
There's a lot
Right,
in
yes,
there.
so
So,
I wasn't sure what to look at in all of that.
yeah, there is a
It was-
whole lot to look, but I really do encourage, you know, you need more time than a couple of days to look through it. But,
Certainly. Yep.
Yeah.
What was the conversation in finance committee as far as, concerns, worries moving in this direction?
I think we talked quite a bit about the bus lot and how important it is and what's going to do for us. We talked about security a little bit and how to keep all these assets secure. The bus lot's going to be a little bit out of town. We make sure that everything we buy is well taken care of. We talked about the mechanic. How important it is. So we spend quite a bit of money out nowadays by outsourcing it on an hourly basis. And actually a savings with the amount of buses we have, more cost effective to have somebody doing that in-house. What else are we talking about?
I think you hit most of it, yeah.
Yeah,
To understand also that when we started our small company, we leased at our former bus, our transportation provider, Citywide. We had 7 buses, now we have 13 buses, and then if it is our growth, we're gonna have in 5 years, maybe 22 or 23 buses. They don't have space for that. We max out there. Whether we do this or no, we will probably need to find another space, probably to put our buses, because we started small, and now we've grown. We'll have 23 buses.
Has there been more discussion about us maybe servicing other small schools? I know that was a discussion, because now it sounds like we're really getting into bus business, if you will. Is there opportunity for that?
We haven't explored that, but that's certainly a discussion point, yeah.
I think once we have the basic infrastructure, and we have our operation running smoothly, it might be a good way to think about sharing schools with cost.
yeah, not for this to ever become an arm that is like a profit center or
Yeah.
anything, but yeah, if there are opportunities to use it. I think the other thing that's good is like, you've also projected out like, you know, we get these buses, but at some point they get retired and we get new buses, so it's a never-ending cycle.
Certainly
So we
is.
need to kind of finalize a long-term capital budget as
Yes.
to replacement of the constant replacement of all the buses. I think we haven't talked about it yet, I think the next meeting is all the financing, how we're going to pay for this.
Right.
So I think there's a number of options, whether you use our own funds or borrow money, just to go through that, so.
Right, because these expenses are coming up quickly, clearly.
Yes.
Is the track the bus feature functionality, is that part of the software, or is that part of the strategy overall?
Yeah, so that's in the software. So currently we have Transport, and that's GPS, but also TransFinder. It has GPS capabilities as well in it, so, yeah.
It's something that the parents are really looking forward to seeing.
Yeah,
Yes.
it would be great to have
Yeah.
available for parents. Do you want to switch over to those other slides for Doug?
Great.
What's that? Hi, sir. A couple of weeks ago, when I was attending the finance meeting, they'd asked if we could bring an expert, kind of share a little bit about their past knowledge. I wanted that holistic approach for you, so did some research. I invited Doug Messer. Doug is currently working for Midwest Transit Equipment. They sell buses throughout the country. But what makes him that testimony, that good expert, is that he was a board member. And he was also a president of the school board as well, at Manhattan School District. And then also, out of Kansas, Manhattan, Kansas. And then also that he was a bus driver. And then also he was the director of transportation for Manhattan. And so Doug put together a little PowerPoint and some of the questions that we had from the finance committee, and I wanted him to address some of those because, as you heard tonight, before I got here, it was a small company that you were starting with transportation, and now the need is growing. And I asked Doug to kind of forecast for some things that we need to think about as we grow. And so you got that school board experience, the president of the school board, you got a director of operations in the sense of transportation, and also all those holistic things. So Doug, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, appreciate that. The other thing that qualifies me as an expert is that I've traveled more than 50 times to get here. So. That's an act. When I was on the school board, you weren't an expert unless you drove more than 50 miles. So hopefully I hit that mark for you. This PowerPoint that I'm presenting is in no way, I'm not here as a sales pitch. I'm not trying to sell you buses for my company. I'm not trying to sell you any services. I'm just here to talk to you a little bit about planning. This particular PowerPoint we put together for the Missouri Association of Pupil Transportation this last summer in Columbia in July. And so I did tailor a little bit based upon some of the things that Rick had talked about and some things that Steve had talked about when we got together. First of all, the day-to-day environment in the school transportation industry, it's changing all the time. I've been in the transportation industry for schools since 1991, and we drew out our routes by hand. I mean, they had maps that they put on tables out in the garage, out in the bus garage, and literally drew the routes. And, you know, had push pins where the kids lived. You can still do that today, and you're on the way to do that with TransFinder. So that's one of the ways that you're evolving in that. The other thing that you're evolving is that you're starting to plan. You're talking about this. I already heard somebody say, we own these buses now, but we're going to have to replace them on down the road. A school bus and a school roof have the same thing in common. They last a certain amount of time, and that's it. Wear and tear on them is decided upon Mother Nature and possibly the people who are in charge of upkeep with them. So, as you know, you have to replace your roof about every 20 years. School buses, maybe if you're good, you can get 20 years out. But you may not want to go that far, and you may be able to recover some costs from the state if you keep the age on once. So we can talk about that too. But you also need to base it upon your needs and your wants. You know, I heard you talking already about, well, maybe we can contract with the small schools and take care of them too. It's a good idea, but maybe get yours going first, make sure you've got that under control, and then branch out and take other people's. So you're already talking about planning, you're already talking about finance, you just presented some of that. You're talking about specifications, software, hardware. All of that is what you have to do to plan for success. You know, you don't just all of a sudden here's a school building one day and we're going to start providing services to students. There's planning that goes with that. So it sounds like you're on your way and you're starting to do that. Some of the things that we talk about, budget. You know, I'm not going to get deep into your budget, but we can talk a little bit about the transportation ASBR. ASBR is the annual Secretary of Board report. You can put your buses on a depreciation schedule and actually capture money back from DESE to help pay for your buses. You can do that, especially with your new buses. They can give you up to 12.5% per year for 8 years. That equals the cost of the bus. Program awareness. We'll talk a little bit about specifications, but I'm not going to go into that. You all aren't writing specifications. We can talk a little bit about hardware and software, and then outside versus school shop repairs, we were already talking about. You need a bus lot. You need someplace to park these buses. And it's not how many buses do we have now, it's how many buses are we going to have 10 years from now. So when I started driving school buses back in 1991 for Manhattan School District in Manhattan, Kansas, we had 40 buses. Manhattan now has 75 buses. They didn't plan for those 75 back in 1993. I'm sorry, 1991. So it got more difficult because, trust me, you cannot put 75 buses on a lot designed for food. Try it. You spend a lot of money dodging up when you do that. Budgeting, you already have talked a little bit about your transportation budget. You have an open and continued conversation. Sounds like you're already doing most of the stuff that's talked about in there. You do have some financing opportunities for capital purchases. You know, when you start talking about we need more buses, we need to provide more services, you have to buy that. You may not have that cash sitting there, so maybe you can lease purchase. Lease purchase is where you basically finance it. So if you were going to lease purchase bus for 3 years, basically you're going to make payments on it for 3 years. At the end of that term, you own the bus. There's also a straight lease option, a municipal lease, where you can lease a bus for, let's say, 3 years. You go in, you get a brand new bus, and then you make a payment on that every year. And then at the end of the term, you turn that bus back over to the company, get new buses, and start all over again. And then we resell those buses. That's the way to do it. It's expensive now. So price of buses have gone up so much it's getting a little bit tough. Affordability grants, you can look at Clean Bus Grant, which you've already got one. That's the electric buses they were talking about. And then there's also federal and state DERA. I do know you have some buses that you bought that are older, that were used, that came from another school district. This is more my customer. And so in the event that there are DERA, which is Diesel Emissions Reduction Act, if there are grants out there for both state and federal that you can apply for, you can utilize some of those older buses where you have to destroy that bus. If you get a grant, you have to destroy that bus and disable the engine so it can't ever be used again. But you get part of that money back. It's almost 20%. It's around $20,000. It's not 20% anymore. It's not 25% anymore. That it used to be. There's also some other programs out there. I don't think you guys are doing early childhood special education, so we can talk about that. So the ASBR. So DESE reimburses on average 12.5% for up to 8 years. You can use that. You guys use Fund 4 currently. So your Fund 4 expenditure, which is capital purchase, you can transfer some of the money from Fund 1 up to 7% or $140,000, whichever best. You can transfer from 1 into 4 and utilize it for that. Anytime you do a cash purchase where you're buying the bus outright, you can do that for up to 8 years on the reimbursement. If you do 12.5% of the cost of what you paid for that for 8 years, it's going to equal 100% of what you paid for that price. On a lease purchase, you can pay for the interest out of Fund 1 and then the principal out of Fund 4. So those are some of the ways that you can capture some of that. When you're paying that interest into Fund 1, they don't reimburse that part of it, but they're at least reimbursing you on the principal. Lease purchase terms are anything from 2 to 10 years. You're not going to be trading anything in, and we're not talking about ECC. You can look at this. This is something that we were talking about it, and I was trying to convince you to start utilizing that. I'd be talking to him and not you. You're the board. You're not going to do that. So again, this was designed for transportation director, but it just talks about how you can depreciate that bus for 8 years, and then you can get that reimbursement back. I actually duplicated that slide accidentally. And we didn't have any of that. I thought I had your guys' ASBR up here. I didn't have to pull that out. Okay. So I actually looked at what your ASBR would have been from last year, and it only had like 3 buses that were eligible because some of them were older, are the ones that were purchased older. So we only had 3 buses in there, and it would show that you could capture back. It wasn't very much. So part of it was you had used buses that didn't pay a lot. So we are getting ready to look at buses. So one of the biggest things that when it comes to looking at buses is making certain that your staff knows that they need to put together specifications. We're not the only company out here selling buses. There's 3 others and 4 when we get into electric. So when you're dealing with that, one of the biggest things is have specifications that are detailed so that everybody is bidding on the same thing. Apples to apples, oranges to oranges. Because if you just say, I want a yellow bus, You could get absolutely anything out there. If you ask for a Missouri minimum bus, you're gonna get a tin can with wheels, and your drivers are not gonna like that. You're already trying to retain drivers. This is something that you're gonna learn. These guys are gonna talk to you all the time about they're gonna tell you all the time about how they can't keep drivers. They're having a hard time getting them, having a hard time retaining them. So this is one of the ways that you keep drivers, is by having a bus that's nice enough that people want to actually drive. Because if you're not doing it, they're going to go down the road to Zoom, or they're going to go down the road to Raytown, or they're going to go here, they're going to drive for anybody else. So having that to where you can list out your features and benefits is very, very appropriate, and it's a recruiting tool and mandatory to keep people. We wanted to spell out the warranties, the things that you want to cover once you get these buses. Because when you do buy new buses, you don't want to spend a lot of money on them. So make sure that they have the appropriate warranties so that in the first 3 to 5 years, it's being covered. Routing software, wow. This is something I just heard you guys talking about. I just found out that you're starting on TransFinder, and that you were one of those that drew those. I think you use Google Maps. That's the old put it down on the table in the garage and we're going to drive. So one of the things that this allows the drivers to know their routes with accurate stop times. I mean, you can list, once you populate all that information in there, it throws those push pins up on the screen for that router to look at and say, these are all the students that I need to capture with this bus. And you can actually draw the route, and it will show you what the stop times are. You know, when a driver gets good enough, there's parents that actually know how to set their watch based upon when that school bus is going up. So it also allows for some drivers can have turn-by-turn directions, as well as a map. You can actually print off a map. It'll show up with the stops. It'll show them turn-by-turn directions. It allows scenario planning for when it comes to attendance centers. You have students all over the city that are going to different schools, and so you can do some planning if you ever want to. We had to do redistricting as we build a new school building in Manhattan. So now all of a sudden the students that used to go to this school are going to go to a different school. And so we were able to do scenarios and show different ones. And then all the parents came in and we sat down and we gave them scenario 1 through 5. And of course everybody didn't like that or that one. But it gives you the opportunity to make those very easily in that way. It lets parents know there's different apps out there that actually have a where's the bus tracker. Parents can actually look at their phone and say, the bus is 5 minutes away. Our mantra was, if you're early, you're on time. If you're on time, you're late. If you're late, you're walking. So we tried to tell parents, we didn't have that. They just got that within the last 3 years. So now parents can actually track when the bus comes, whether or not the student got on the bus, and those types of things. It also helps you track your miles and hours in an accurate manner. So now at the end of the year, you can look what your route times are, which you have to turn in on the ASB already. It also lets you do student tracking and ridership if you've got those activity trips. I don't know, do you have the module for activity trips on TransFinder? You do. So now teachers can actually go out there and request an activity trip. A coach or an athletic director can get all those set up. And so it allows the people who are running transportation to plan for, oh, hey, I know I have a bus going at this time, this is how far it's going to go. And it allows them to assign that to a driver also. So you can do it based upon seniority, those types of things. So that's what it allows with that activity trip. And again, you can track your miles and hours for the other thing. Within then some of the other software, you can get fleet maintenance software. I don't know if you've got that one on TransFinder or not. If you're not doing your own maintenance yet, then it's not, but that's something to look at in the future if you start your own maintenance program. Camera systems, you know, this is hardware that you got to consider. Camera systems are there to protect three people: students, the driver, but most importantly, you. And I just heard you talking about the, you know, the fine goes to you on the ethics one. They're not going to come after you, but they are, and they're coming after the school. So those cameras, it sees everything and it records it, and you can hear, and every camera has its own microphone. You know, I don't know how large school districts operate without using cameras. I would have been lost. Manhattan has 7,000 students. We transport 3,500 a day. Trying to keep track of what's going on 58 different buses. You know, it's really difficult. So something to consider.
Do our buses today have cameras?
We don't?
We have some cameras on our buses, but we're waiting for those other ones to be installed. Wait for IT.
Yeah. And trust me, I've seen it all on a school bus. So it's, yeah. I was actually, before I was the transportation director, I retired from the fire department. I was an assistant fire chief. I used to tell people I had two dangerous jobs. One of them was life-threatening, and I may not come home from the other one. I just put out fires. So, mobile Wi-Fi. This is something that you can put on your bus. And it's essentially a router on a cell phone, and it allows students to access internet, do things. You can set it up to where it runs through your firewall so that they can't access inappropriate information while they're on the bus. There are several districts around you that have that. I know Raytown has it in all their buses. They actually utilize it. Students are doing homework on it. And they kind of use it as a reward system too. If this bus has a really bad discipline report this week, yep, sorry, we're going to shut off your Wi-Fi. And we're going to give it to this bus that was actually doing that. You can throttle it, you can give them more. When they're on those long trips, when they're going to Arkansas and Springfield and Columbia and whatever, it gives them an opportunity to be able to possibly do some homework while they're on the bus. You can also use it for tracking and student tracking and whatnot. Vehicle GPS tracking and location, again, that can be a separate system. It can also, your routing system is already going to utilize it. You can also utilize it through cameras, so the camera will actually do the tracking, and it's pulling in all the pertinent information like vehicle speed, whether they did a hard brake, whether they applied the brake, whether they opened their door, whether they activated their yellow 8-ways, red 8-ways, everything. Again, we talked about protecting the board. So, you know, if you have a driver that says, well, I use my turn signal and the guy just pulled out in front of me. Well, when you go back and you look at the camera and you see that they didn't use their turn signal, it wasn't identified on the video that they had their turn signal on, then you say, well, that's our fault. Or you can also utilize it to protect you from the other driver says, well, the driver just, you know, did this. Now, I have a video that proves otherwise. You pulled out in front of the bus. The bus hit you. It was your fault. We gave, I couldn't tell you how many hours of video I gave to law enforcement that actually helped our district not get in trouble. So, and again, that parent tracking app is a big one that people really like. So, maintenance. So right now you're taking your buses outside to get them worked on. You're paying the upper end of this, $200 to $260 per hour at a shop. Dwell times, you're probably getting your bus back in a day or two.
No, we're low priority.
You're low priority. Yeah, you're just a number, you're just a customer number on a sheet. So you've got trash trucks and furniture trucks and ambulances and fire trucks in front of you when it comes to priority. So your dwell times can be anywhere from 2 days to 4 weeks or more, which is really tough when you're trying to keep buses on the road every day. You also often have these hidden fees like environmental or miscellaneous shop supplies. If you're running your own shop, you're not gonna have that kind of stuff. You pay list price for parts, and then that shop is making a profit off of you. So when you take and the scenario is you take your bus to get worked on over at XYZ Repair Shop. XYZ Repair Shop says you need an alternator, and the alternator costs $560. The reality is the shop probably paid $250 for the alternator, and then you pay $560. So you're paying for their profit. You have very little control over prioritizing that repair. None. And then you're one of hundreds, if not thousands, of customers who go to that shop. Now, I heard talk about a bus lot, someplace to keep the buses. And if you're looking at that, look at someplace that has room to build a shop. If you build a shop now, you can pay $25 to $45 per hour, depending on the experience of the work. Rick asked me about what does it take to put the tools in that shop. Well, if you pay that upper $45, the hand tools that the mechanic needs, he's probably providing, he or she. They are going to provide their own tools, because if they're working at XYZ Repair Shop, they're providing their own tools already. So they have their own tools. That's why you're going to pay that $45 an hour, because they provide their own. If you're going to buy the tools and have them in there, you're probably going to spend somewhere between $25,000 and $50,000 for hand tools. And then you're going to pay that lower amount, and then they don't have to provide their own. The problem is if they aren't buying their own tools, they don't keep track of them like they're their own tools. So if they have to buy their own tools, they are really good about keeping track of that $75 ratchet or that $45 screwdriver. They will look for that and find it. They didn't buy it, sometimes they don't care. Minor repairs can be a few minutes or a few hours. You might be able to take care of them right away between routes or something like that. Complex repairs can take longer. Those shop supplies that you pay for in an environmental fee, which is anywhere from $5 to $25, you're buying boxes of them, and you have multiple cans. So instead of paying $5 for 4 shots out of a can, you're paying $5 for the can where you've got 40 shots out of it, 40 sprays. So that kind of stuff can save you money. Rags, those types of things. That's what you're paying for at those outside repair places. You're not paying list price for parts. You're not trying to make a profit off of it. So now you're going to buy parts from a parts, whether it's a parts company or it could be the parts company on the corner. It might be a specific truck manufacturing part. It might be from a bus company. But most of those places have a parts runner. They have a parts delivery. And so when you order parts from them, they deliver them out to you, so you don't have to go and get them. And then you're not going to pay that list price for them. Oftentimes you can get it set up, so you're going to get discounts off of that. You're in control when it comes to priority, and then you have more control over the uptime of that vehicle. Because every time that thing goes to the shop, it sits there for a week or two. Now you're relying on an older, less used spare bus that nobody likes to drive and has a propensity to break down more. Because you always keep your nicest, newest buses on the front line, and the older ones go on the back line and are reserved or spare. You have currently 13 buses?
Yes.
How many spares do you have?
2, but they're in the shop.
2, but they're in the
I
shop.
went on a Freightliner today, and you just hit the nail on the head. We had a bus up there for 2 weeks, and have yet to get to it.
So that's try to keep 10% reserve. So if you're gonna have 20 buses, keep 2 in reserve, wouldn't hurt to have more, and then if you do a lot of trips, you may need 4. So it just kind of depends. In Manhattan, we had 7 buses in reserve, and that was never. Should be the end of that. Do you have any questions for me? I know there's a lot of information, I just threw it at you. So I have a test for you that I'm not gonna make you take a test. But it's just information to kind of give you that 10,000 foot overview. It sounds like you have a really good staff that's getting you started into the transportation thing. At $430 per route for Lexington diesel, you can do it for half of that in-house. The difference is $430, you're paying somebody else to have a headache. At $215, you're paying him to have a headache, or whoever's running it. So ultimately, that's not the superintendent, he's running the show. He hires good people. So that's the way to run it. Any questions for me?
I have a question. You were talking about the bus, tracking the buses, and that parents can honestly tell where the bus is, and so can the administration can also do that. Did I hear anyone say that you already have that, or you're thinking about getting that? I think there's a real protection for
It was in transport, but it was never implemented, and that's the key right there. If we were to implement or have that device, it'd be amazing how many of the calls would be limited to our building manager and also our dispatcher, because I cannot tell you how many calls we get at dispatch. When's bus 8 coming? When's bus 8 coming? Or bus 6? Non-stop. So I've been waiting, and we're anxious waiting to be able to implement that, because that's probably 99% of our calls. And we have a building manager right here. Is the parents calling, letting know where that bus is, and we get them on that app, they'll be able to track that bus.
Yes.
So what's stopping us from implementing it?
Say again?
What's stopping us from implementing it?
To my understanding, the SIS did not communicate with the software.
What?
Transport did not communicate with Tyler at that time.
Student information system.
Yeah.
But we don't have tech anymore.
Oh, now we've switched.
Now it's going over the school messenger.
Is it compatible with the new, what's the new system?
I know Roche, it's in the works for him working on it, and I think.
Like, that would be a high priority.
Well, we're going through the transponder training now.
Yeah.
We never had a routing system,
Right.
and I have to admit, I think that Academy of Lafayette has done an exceptional job routing, like you said, the old pins and needles. We sit down at a table, and that's how we've been routing. Once you get
Especially because
transponder.
it's door to door. I mean, then it's,
Exactly right.
we're not.
Well, and you're unique in that you are running door to door.
So what other districts do you have?
No, most of them do neighborhood stops. But it's a different model. You're going over the entire district, all over the metro area.
Yeah.
Whereas most areas are just going over small pieces. Raytown stays in Raytown, and Flat City stays in Flat, Liberty stays in Liberty. So they don't go out into the other areas. Kansas City, they have one contractor, but I guarantee you that
They have hubs.
yeah, they have hubs, and they're still probably doing neighborhood stops. They are not doing door to door. Whereas you're specialized picking up students that are coming to your school. So you're doing door to door type stuff. Now, if you have 10 students that all live, 3 houses from each other, then I would do one stop and pick up all of those. But you probably don't have that type of service right now.
And didn't we move, is it K-5 that's door to door and 612 is there? Yeah, so.
That is correct.
So it's not door to door.
High school and middle school, we stop. Sometimes door to door, our K through 5 is door to door.
I'm not gonna run down any system, but Transport is trying to be a routing, tracking, camera, everything system, and that's really tough. It's tough to say, well, I want to get this camera system, and I want to get this routing system, and I want to get this tracking system, but each one of those places specializes in what they do. And just like, you know, one Tyler wouldn't talk to your sis, that's a problem, because that's really important. That you be able to take the student information system, upload that information, sometimes weekly, maybe daily. Ours did it nightly, 2 o'clock in the morning every day. Our sis would upload into our routing system so that if I had new students, I would know that they needed to get onto the bus. And so a router could look at it every day, they'd pop it up, first thing it do is look at the dashboard. Dashboard comes up and says, oh, hey, look at that, I got 3 new students. So the other thing was, it allows, and it's probably not as big for you because you don't have new streets being built, they'll new subdivisions. I was dealing with new subdivisions being built constantly. And so I would take the information from my local GIS, which did all the addressing and street assignments, and allowed that to upload too, because before that, I had 15 building secretaries, and so when somebody would enroll, they would just start putting in their address, and whether they spelled it right or not, they didn't care. Well, then it was wrong in the student information system, and so when it hit the transportation system, that road doesn't exist, and so that person will go off the law. So there's a whole lot of components that this routing people do. They're bringing in address ranges, they're bringing in street names, and so you do the same thing in the student information system where it has to be put in accurately. So it's very complex.
So I have a good question. So back years we were using a big transportation company for students, and that's what they do, right? They have the expert with no transportation inside and out, and they're providing a travel service, very expensive. So now we're bringing the house, and one of the people we should watch for, because if it was so easy, we do it well. So why don't they do it well, and what makes you think we should be able to do better?
Well, let me put it from this perspective. Whether it's for student or Zoom or Lexington Diesel or whatever, why are they in business? What are they doing? What's their bottom line? Profit. It's profit. It's money. You're not doing it for money. You're doing it as a service to your students. So you can do it cheaper. And so for them, the bottom line is the bottom line. So they cut corners where they need to cut corners. And they cheap out where they have to cheap out so that they can continue to make that profit. So you have the ability to have people that are passionate about doing what they're doing, not based upon the bottom line. It's based upon, this is a service we provide because that's what we're doing.
Still like control costs.
Sure.
Listen, one way spending transportation is not spend on teachers, so we always have to. So what's it good? How do we know that we run efficiently? How do we know that we want to bring those kids safely at school, but what's it? We got benchmark, and we can aim for to make sure that we are efficient in how we spend our $2
Yeah, because you have the ability to compare what other students or what other school districts are doing. You have the ability to look at at efficiencies of, you can go in and look at Raytown's information, or you can go in and look at
Yeah, it's all total information.
Yeah. So when you go in and you look at it, compare yourself to other schools that are providing it. So Lee Summit, Blue Springs, Raytown, Liberty, Independence, Grain Valley, those are all schools that are providing their own transportation. They are not using a contract. And you can see what they're doing, and you can kind of compare. Problem is it's tough to compare what you're doing to what they're doing because you're covering a much larger area. And so your efficiencies may not be as good as theirs, but for what you're doing, it may. You know, again, if you're going down the street to try to get XYZ repair company to fix your buses, now that's something that those schools, once they have their own transportation department, they have their own maintenance. They have their own facilities to do their own maintenance. So you're not going to start out as efficient as them. But you're going to have people that you employ that are always looking for those efficiencies. And there's ways to look at that. And it's, you know, what was the number, 22 buses is what you think you need to be at, around 22 buses. So you kind of look at another school that has 22 buses and kind of run off of what they are. It's all, again, public information.
You know, as I had a conversation with Dr. Easley, Dr. Easley's the transportation director over at Raytown. You know, when we're paying $255 an hour for oil changes, tire rotations, fluid checks, when we can simply go out and hire somebody at $40, $45 an hour, whatever it might be, along with all the other benefits, being able to know our buses, to know our drivers, and those are key factors, and that turnaround time too. You know, I take this bus down the Freightliner over on Front Street. That bus has been sitting there for a week and they haven't even looked at it yet. That time is crucial to us because what happens is a domino effect. Because if another bus breaks down, now we're trying to combine routes. We're making those phone calls on, and you're getting those phone calls from the school district, bus 8 or bus 6 or whatever's not running. Well, it's that domino effect for them not working on that bus. But just think of what we're paying for a simple oil change at $255 an hour, because that's a shop rate. That's the shop fees, and tire rotations and things like that, or batteries, or just that preventative maintenance. You know, there's, you know, when I had a conversation with Dr. Easley, that's going to be your number one savings that you're going to see right away. But we just don't have that facility right now.
And you're probably going to pay 40% what you're paying now for parts. I mean, you're going to see a great reduction in what you're paying for just the materials itself. You buy it in bulk, it's cheaper. You know? You buy a 55-gallon drum of oil, it's going to take care of 10 buses versus buying it by the gallon, which is almost twice as expensive.
And here's another example. I can go on and on and on. You know, we had that maintenance guy that knows our buses and knows those drivers, because one of the hardest things that in the city for bus drivers is that stop and go, and it's those brakes. Those brakes get hot. Well, we could go and simply change out the pads, but the next thing you know, that driver is driving that bus, and now we're changing out rotors, so now the price is double.
Right.
And that's what I'm seeing a lot of. If you look at our cost factor, is our brakes and our rotors. Would you agree with that? Or were you
Yeah. Yes. If the electric buses going, that will not be the same. The electric buses are totally different.
We got into this business of transportation, we didn't like it. You remember that? The board voted against it first. But we had first student was a complete mess. The contract was, we were supposed to pay $1.2 million. And it didn't work out with the mess. As an educator, I want the kids to come on time, safely, and get back home. It affects our academic results, affects the money we're receiving, it affects our retention, and so on. So I think probably at some point we can work on what we're looking for as efficient for our school. Let's say, okay, this is what we're looking for. But for me, we went from, when we were 850 students, it was 900, the last time we used citywide, we were using 17 buses or 18 buses. Now we're using 15 buses. Now, we think the projection is we will be transporting 40% of our kids. And once we get there also with 1,600 students, we're still spending 6% of our budget. Like when we were doing, what we do, the exact same thing with citywide. It's the same percentage of our budget they're using. So I think that personally, if you have somebody that is very reliable like before, I wouldn't be getting into this thing at all. But it's not, not only we're spending less, but we now control what we're doing. If you have a problem, we know what to do. Go and do it, and fix it. And last but not least, the marketing. We have our beautiful name on the buses, and everybody told me, "Oh, I saw your buses last time," and it helps again. But we're not into the transportation business. It was never been. I would look like a foolish person when I said, "Let's do it." Remember that. But I think at this point, schools are coming to ask us, how do you do it? They're trying to do the same thing. So I guess we need to get a tracking system of efficiency and then come up with something that makes sure that it's not out of hand in terms of cost, and then we're efficient, and then transporting kids safely. That's what we want, educated. Get in on time, leave, go home safely without breaking the bank.
Do you have a system to track performance of the competition in it, like let's say a dashboard that shows, every day how many kids you are on time, or how do you measure on the road track from an operations standpoint?
There are systems out there that do that. You can utilize that Here Comes the Bus, I think has that in there. So you know who's getting on the bus. You'll know, the pickup times, the arrival time at the school, those types of things. So you do have the ability to look at some of that information when you get into those tracking systems. And there's, I just said Here Comes the Bus because that was the one that's on the top of my head. But there are other systems out there that do the exact same thing, which is tracking the progress of the bus, the number of students that got on board. If you have a bus that's been involved in a crash or an incident, somebody can look up and know exactly who's on the bus at that time. And so that's also helpful. Plus you'll get that phone call every day that mom says, the bus didn't show up. Well, I just pulled it up and it said it stopped right in front of your house at 8:32. And it sat there for a minute and then it moved on, which a minute is too long. That's just me. Sorry, it's too long.
Yeah.
And again, it does cut down on those number of phone calls.
Yeah. Good. All right. Any other questions? One quick thing, kind of ish topic. Do you know about that company Bus Patrol and how they record like people who violate like not stopping when the bus stops? I just saw something on it and I just didn't know if you knew anyone who used it.
There are several companies out there, whether or not it's legal in the state of Missouri, like red light camera.
Yeah, okay.
Those are imposed on a civil. It's not a moving violation, it's a civil violation. But in order to do that, you have to make certain, in the state of Kansas, they're not legal.
Okay.
In Missouri, I couldn't tell you whether or not they'll do it. There are stop-arm cameras you can put on buses. You can actually put the stop-arm camera and then you have footage of them going through the stop-arm. And some local jurisdictions will write a ticket based on that.
Yeah.
Whether or not they'll do it here, I couldn't tell you.
Okay. I just found it interesting. I didn't know about. I didn't know it existed before.
Kansas City Police Department and said, hey, we just had a car go through a bus stop sign there. Everybody's like, oh, sorry to hear that.
Excellent.
Trust me, I saw 4 cars on a red light. So.
All right.
Nobody's done it. There are companies out there. They advertise heavily, especially on school board sites. So, like whether it's NSBA or
Yeah.
any of those, they do that to try to pull people.
So then I'll ask questions like that,
Yeah,
right?
but I don't know, I couldn't tell you if that's something that you can do
Yeah.
in the state of Missouri.
Okay.
I don't have that. It's
All right.
doesn't fall under mine.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Greg. Yeah. Stephen, was that the end of
That was the end,
finance?
yes.
All right. I can't even remember what's next on the agenda. I don't think we were.
Global trip we had on here too, Mr. Frank, did you, the high school global studies?
Yeah, but we're just wrapping up, there's nothing more for.
I don't think did we need a vote on that?
What do you do?
Or has everybody read, do we need a vote? Stephen, do you need a vote to approve to adopt the plan? Or do we need to do that at next meeting?
I think it still needs to be looked at.
Yeah,
I don't think everyone's had a chance probably to go
Right.
through all those materials.
right.
Usually for the next board.
Yep, I agree. Okay.
There's one point that is not in the presentation, it's about the global trips. As you know, our 11th graders, they go to Senegal, Costa Rica, or China. And when we started this trip, a few years ago, I mean, this second year, I think third year, but when we decided to do it, it was a few years ago when we started our high school, the board committed to, for the first group to pay 50%, and the second one 25%, and we paid also the third one, I think, 25%. And that's it. So what I'm proposing is we break in our budget to pay 25% for those trips. Because it's a part and parcel of our program, our high school program. We don't need to vote on it now, but I think we can have a discussion at the next finance committee meeting and then bring it back for vote for the next board meeting.
The trips are compulsory for the kids?
No, they're not.
So they have to fund.
They fundraise part of it. They have been very successful in terms of fundraising with the 25%. But this year, there's no subsidy from the board. So that's what I'm trying to say. We need to resolve once for all and making sure that those kids will be able, because it's kind of a great part of our program of high school for kids to do.
No, it's an important part of your program. I mean, it's kind of a hallmark of why yes, it is.
So, again, we can talk about it at the next finance committee meeting, and then the next board meeting, we can, let's vote on that.
And then that would just be ongoing. We would not have to
Yes.
vote on that every year then,
Yeah.
correct?
Yeah. So, next is,
Development, I think, is next. Yes.
do you have your,
Yeah, it's just one slide.
okay,
I'm easy.
Go ahead.
Be professional, be professional.
Okay, do you mind?
Oh, it's,
Yes, thank you. Okay. All right, update on the raffle. I will have the final numbers for everybody, next board meeting in December. What we are pending still is the final shirt, the final cost of the raffle shirts, but essentially our gross was $119,653,000, which was awesome. Our budgeted goal was $100,000, so it was really cool to see that. Our net, so taking out, I think we all know what net is, taking out all of our expenses, we are at $102,153, which currently is about 15% of our, administrative costs. We try to stay, just a reminder, we try to stay under 25% for events throughout the year. We're going to be closer to 25% overhead for events where we have to get a venue and cater food and things like that. What really brings our cost up here to 15% is the fact that we're giving away $10,000 plus some, other money that goes into marketing, raffle shirts, etc. So, big deal too is the winner of this year's raffle is an AL parent. She's a Cherry parent, Julie Duckworth. So, congrats, Julie. We were excited to see that it was one of our own families. Again, I will have final numbers next month, but are there any questions about where we're at with raffle right now? number was.
Congratulations.
Yeah, thanks to everybody, it was great, it was really great, yeah.
Nice work.
We are quickly jumping into, oh, you know what I didn't put on here, Generations Day, I just needed to plug that. I know it's not necessarily a board thing, but Generations Day is coming up next week, and while it's not a direct moneymaker for us in the sense of cash coming in, it is a huge community building event, and so those will be happening Wednesday, Thursday, Friday of next week. End of year appeal. This is just our end of year campaign. We are jumping right into this. We are going to be sending out our appeal letters to donors. So anybody who has donated this month or to AL ever gets a letter. Families, current AL families will also get a decal as well as board members, just our traditional AL decal. Something new that we're doing too that I just want to plug here is a Giving Tuesday Amazon wish list. So instead of directly asking for money on Giving Tuesday like a lot of organizations do, we thought a meaningful way to request donations would be an Amazon wish list. So all of the building managers and nurses are compiling wish lists for their own individual buildings, and we're going to be pushing that out as kind of our introduction to the end of year appeal on Giving Tuesday. Okay,
It's a great idea.
Okay, thank you.
So, thanks. I skipped the diversity committee. I thought it was somewhere, no?
I don't think there was anything, this week.
Just to let you know, we did the Dance Academy at Oak. There was not a lot of attendance, but the teachers did a great job presenting French immersion program. And the next one will be in December, posted in December about reading. Hopefully we'll be able to attract more parents. There have been a proposal to review the immersion one in February for new parents, and then those who are interested in our school. But it's something going on. We just want to make sure. That people know what's happening. Our parents, community knows what's happening in our school and how we're doing business. It's part of good practice in immersion program, making people interested. So hopefully one day we'll be able to invite renowned authors who come here or artists who can come and visit our school and then talk to our parents. I said, when I was in Portland, I think I talked to the committee. We had people like Jane Goodall who came and visited and talked to parents. We had Greg Mortenson, C. Cup of Tea. We had also basketball player, French guy, Nicola Battle. Opening it to a community that people are going to come and visit the kids and then talk to the parents and talk to the community who's good one too.
One of the things we talked about at the Saturday school fair too was everybody that visited our booth, we got their email address, and so to invite them to that to learn about.
So it was prospective parents who are looking for
Yes.
kindergarten.
Yeah.
Okay, and our own parents. We want them.
Yes, we do.
Good. Performance report. As you know, we're doing the full NWEA just to keep track of what we're doing. Normally, we should be tracking the spring one, the spring to spring, but anyway, we want to make sure we also share the fall one. The problem with the fall is we get out of summer school and then we have some gain. Generally, we do better than most schools, in the country, comparison in the fall. But what we want is making sure we keep track of. Our strategic goal is 75% of our kids be professional advanced in the music map test. And we try to correlate it with NWEs, trying to predict growth based on what we have. And that's what Bruce, our data guy, is doing, helping us to project and tell us how well we're doing or not. For the NWEA, he was telling us that our science and math and ELA was 90% better than our peers. But that's something else. what we're trying to do here, we met with the committee, when the committee rightfully, of course, asked us to track the cost and not just grade to grade, because we don't see the growth if we do just 8th grade, because we're comparing 3 groups of different years. So that's why I put the cost, as you see how the growth grow. If you want to understand it, it's this year's 4th grade, how did they do this year, how did they do last year, the same go how they do 2 years ago. So that's what and then we go to 8th graders. So generally, in general, as we move up, our kids tend to do better. So we have seen that here in 7th grade, there's something happening, we need to go and check what's going on.
So it's the blue one is when the 7th graders were 7th grade this year, 2 years ago, they were 84%, the same kids now?
Yes, that's what it is. That's what I'm saying, and I see the same thing in mathematics too, it looks like, in 7th grade. So, you see here, this is math. But they're going back. So, what we see is it's only one subject, you see it in, what we see in English, and you see in math, same grade. So, what we want is by the time they get to 8th grade, then we get everybody to 80, we get to where we want to be, 75, remember, that's where we want to be.
On the MAP test, so.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying, we're trying to correlate that.
Yeah.
This is the science one, where we are. As you can see again, same grade, 7th grade, in math, science, and English. That's something we need to go ahead looking at. What would it be? That's here. So this is by ethnicity. That's what we see here.
Can you move the people to the side so you can see the?
Generally, if I move, yeah.
Right, you should be able to move it down.
Yeah, it's down, you're going to be feeding, so let's do that. Good. Same thing, we have, and the next one is also ethnicity by, this is the math one. We're still having, of course, gap. One thing we're doing this year, remember this is our 2nd year of strategic plan, and what we want is by the time we finish our 5 year, we cut the gap by 50%. That's our goal. Our goal is to cut the gap by 50% by 5th grade at least, to make sure that. So what we're doing is we're going down to the classroom, of course, making sure that we track all performance by categories, and then working with teachers to see what the kids were struggling and what kind of what resource we're going to move there to support them. So that's what we've done. We have a classroom dashboard like we're having here. Now it's going all the way to the classroom dashboard to make sure the teachers are being supported, but also look at individual kids, attendance, suspension, and whether or not they have IEP, ELL, and so on, and then making sure we're working with a teacher, particular teacher, to focus on individual kids and bring together the special education team, the ELL team, and the Title I team. That's what we're trying to do. Hopefully, we're confident that by the next 4 years, we should be able to cut this gap. We need also to work with parents if it is about attendance or behavior.
And the classroom dashboard has been rolled out now, so teachers now have access to see their students' data, all the data they need on their students.
They're themselves populating. Yeah. Because what we want is everybody own the data, and the principals look at all things, and then, like I'm doing for the district, the principals are doing the same thing for the building, and they're sharing the data on a monthly basis. Every day we're sharing here, we share on the building level, and then discuss and find solution. And at the class level, the principal will be meeting with teachers monthly, monthly, on a monthly basis, and then looking at the data for each class, and then talking about it. So because we want the teachers to do their best, we don't want to, they own one, yeah.
And I think it's helpful to know that it's down at the classroom level, because I think that's where you really have to get to know individual students and what it takes, because I think as we look at the data, clearly the achievement gaps are not shrinking, and so that will be a big
If you, I have another thing it depends. It's shrinking from last year to this year. If you compare, if you take the district average and categories. So it's in the spreadsheet I shared, there was some where you can look at it. But
because
again,
when I look at the comparison, I'm not so much looking at district, I'm looking at how are our white students doing versus our black students, and is that sort of gap getting smaller? And so in that regard, and actually I don't even think with the district it is either, but that's the one that I look at, that I focus on.
That's correct. So this is stability. Then value. And for mathematics. And it's for science. Oh.
On YouTube or on Zoom?
Should be on.
Stand by, technical difficulties, if you can hear this.
Can the people online hear us okay?
Yeah, this is Kelly. I can hear you.
Okay, so let's be on YouTube.
I mean, it says it's on.
Okay.
It says it's live.
It's live, okay. I
So
don't know what the hell it is.
Just an individual.
And can you send me a text message to tell me what's going on? So, yeah, the gap we're struggling, of course, the especially in race, mainly. Socioeconomic. So for those are pre-already qualified for pre-release and non-pre-release. And this is for the mathematics, for socioeconomic. And this is science one, socioeconomic.
So our gaps for our free and reduced lunch students and non-free and reduced is much smaller than our sort of gaps over race, which is concerning.
Yeah.
Than for the ethnicity, yeah. That's true.
So the issue, the issue of this, the race and the performance and the ethnicity, is a concern for everyone. I mean, across the nation, but my question is, knowing that here in, as you said, County Lafayette is not just a regular school, it really has high performance. What are we doing about these major differences, or catching those kids up, or giving them, mentors, or whatever it takes? What are we doing so that at the end they will have the same kind of a future? Because I do know that socioeconomic and race can have some intersect, but I'd like to know what is this, just really into this.
And that's what I was talking about, because solving things at the district level or at the building level in the world, you need to go down to the classroom and know exactly what the kids, what they're doing, how they do it. And when I talk about the classroom dashboard, what it looks like is this. We have I don't want to kind of project you, I don't want to show any name, but what we have is, let's say I have a classroom, I'm teaching fifth grade.
Right.
I have my student's name
Yes,
and the ethnicity.
yes.
And then whoever has IEP, not freedom because it's confidential. But IEP and 504 or ELL and so on. And then after that, I'm checking their grade on first quarter in French, in English, and math, and you put everything there and look at it. The next one I'm looking at is the NWE test in the fall and the spring, how they're doing and what we do. And we do the mock test. And once we do that, we set a goal by kid, and then we color code kids and see who has the problem here. And then we look at, we try to cross the data and see, let's say in my class, who is having a problem? If it is student A has problem with IEP and something, we need to work with IEP team and see whether or not the plan is being followed in the classroom, whether or not the kid is, we also track absences, attendance rate. Every kid has attendance rate. So we're crossing the data to see, to go to the bottom of the problem and say, okay, why is this kid is struggling? You see, it's an attendance problem, we need to work with the parents and say, hey, this kid's having this issue. If it is an IEP, we need to work with the IEP and see whether or not the plan is implemented with fidelity, number one. If it is a matter of, and we look at also discipline, we try to track every kid's OAS and OSS in the same folder, in the same page. What we want is the teacher have one-stop thing and then see the classroom all. And once we do that, what we're trying to do is, of course, action plan for the classroom that they have an issue. Trying to move resources, whether or not the teacher has a classroom management issues where you're releasing that. Or again, as I said, that you have a challenge in teaching math or whatever. So we're trying to look at all those things and move resources based on where we think there's a need. So, and then for each kid, you're setting the goal for the next, let's say, for the next test and following it. Because at the end, I told everyone, I'm tired of being here and presenting the data at this level. I mean, now we've been to the building level. It has to come to the classroom. That's where the problem should be solved. And we need to support the teachers and not only dump it on them. It's about seeing what kind of working with them. Then will tell us if they have a behavior issue, how do we support them? Okay. It will also allow us to track whether or not we're putting too many kids who have IEP in the classroom and in the other. So making the teacher being aware and then supporting them first. Because without the moving the support, it would not work. So that's at the level now we have to go down and then try to figure out in which kids individually, not by the group, what challenge they have, and then see whether or not we have enough money for Title I. Because some of the kids are struggling and they cannot attend academic support. Why? Because they have busing issues. Okay? So all the things now we are trying to look at, go down to the individual student, not to the group back. Okay?
Yeah, I was wondering, that's what I was gonna ask you about, is the after-school support, because I happen to have a kid who this year is having a hard transition. And I actually, I had a hard time figuring out when the after-school support was presented, and then by the time I figured out the person to ask about it, I was told he was not eligible for after-school support. And my concern is, owning a young black boy, is that we're gonna wait till he is at a place where his grades, because right now he's basically at proficient, where I'm used to him being a little further along. And I wanted to get him the support now, but I was told I was not eligible. It's not eligible for support. They told me to send him down to the W.E.B. Du Bois Center somewhere down the city. We went down there and they ended up playing kickball and they played on their phones. And so I don't know what I need to do as a sixth grader to get him the support that he needs. And I know right now he's not as confident as he was in the fifth grade. And so I'm wondering whether or not we have enough support for our students, because I know he needs it, I know he wants it, and I also was told he was not eligible for it.
Well, that's a great question, because Title I funds come from federal government, and we receive the funds, that's what we use. And when we get it, we prioritize it. We go and look at the results of the NWA test, the math test, the grade level, and we sit down and we rank kids. And then we use the money based on the bottom up, who are eligible. And that's the money that pay also transportation and so on. Now, we don't have enough money. However, every year we take on our general budget and we prioritize some kids, especially we're supporting even first grade, second grade, so that by the time they end second grade, they will be helped. Now, sixth grade, if you're proficient in math test and in NWA, you're not really our priority at this point, because our priority is those who are struggling. Now, as a parent, you may have those concerns. I think working with the principal and the teacher, sit down and say, hey, how do I support the confidence of my kids, and how do we make sure he's not slipping by and we have to catch up? Those are good questions to do. But at this point, our priority is supporting those kids who are below basic or basic, and that's the main issue we have. Unfortunately, we're in a Title I building. We don't have all this money. We have to take from our budget, which we've done every year.
So we have made a surplus budget last year, so maybe it's a good year to think of innovative solutions to try to see that we're going to need them. Maybe we can spend 200 grand in getting, extra math hours.
Tutoring.
There's a whole bunch of stuff that also out of the box that we may not be able to afford in a regular year, but this year we can try things and see if they move the needle and kind of.
So we don't have to wait until they drop so much that they are
Well, that's
eligible
what it
for
feels like,
Title I.
because one, I can tell he's not as confident, and then I feel powerless because I don't even get the language even, plus I'm not a math person or a science person myself. But then I go to W.E. Du Bois, we sit there on a Monday night, and he walks out and is like, why am I learning things? I mean, I'm like, are they on your level? Like, I don't think they're doing the same math as we're doing. So it feels powerless to me to be able to help him, and I can tell that his confidence is dwindling in real time. And so I would love to have the option of allowing him to get support from our AL staff in some level.
Yeah, I understand as a board member, but it's a trouble. It's not very, how do you say, comfortable to talk directly about your own case. I get it, but I get it. I don't want to get into that. I think having a meeting with me or with your principal, start with your principals and teachers, and then if you still have concern to meet with me. But what I'm saying is, for Olivier, I always ask teachers. Last week I went to I think it was first grade at Cherry. They told me about concern about fee. I said, no, go ahead and find whoever you do, you're going to pay. I am not, kids who are eligible and need support from the teachers, we try to support them. Another issue we are facing is finding staff, paraprofessionals. We're trying to find paraprofessionals, we cannot find them. Now.
But is it because you look for French speaking, or is it in general? Because I wanted, maybe sometime we can bend the rules and say, they have a math education in French, a great math teacher, but then there's a little extra where we don't have a math French speaking, but we have English speaking to give a little more boost for the 10 kids who are in the middle. I don't know where.
I'm just going to jump in here and echo that support, that we need to take a look at this and provide the support for kids that need it and want it. I understand that sometimes we have guidelines and rules, and we have people that follow the rules. But I think there's a lot of gray area that we need to look at when we're looking at our individual kids here. So I encourage us as a board, this needs to take a look at it.
Well, again, when we do remember, all this process starts in the summer, with identification and so on. We provide support of kids who need it. I have always gone beyond the Title I budget to say, to go to third graders, seventh graders, whoever, meet with teachers, and whenever they have needs, we provide it. That's what we do. Last year was different because we had a budget issue anyway, but it turned out it's not the case. It wasn't the case. Sometimes we don't know what's going to happen until we move up. But again, remember, we have a strategic plan to fill the gap. The money we have is to serve that. I'm just trying to tell you, you're right, you're preaching to the choir. Because when I sit down here and talk about reducing the gap, the money we have, that's what we use to do that. The problem we have at this point, again, is finding paraprofessionals. Going on and finding English, that's, I think, an education decision that we take, not the board. But what you should tell me is, get the money and support these kids. But we're not going to go and find an English person, anybody who can help. We're trying to do that. One thing we faced this year and we didn't have before. Because we made a decision 2 years ago, 3 years ago, to provide more interns to second grade, first grade. Because in the past we only had 6 interns. Yeah. Now we try to get 4 more interns to help reading in first grade. So that we have paraprofessionals, and we put paraprofessional 2 in French and English for third grade, English 1. For third grade, have a specific paraprofessional to help them reading in English. That's the decision we made a few years ago. So, but I thank you as board members who were telling me, use the money to support the kids, and thank you very much. It did not fall on deaf ears.
It's not helpful to, in an immersion setting, to provide help in English, because they learn in French, and so it can be confusing to have dual language. I know it's counter.
I hear you, though, in 6th grade, they're now in their math teacher, who's a French-speaking math teacher, teaches both in math and French and in English.
Math is easier, I think, to do in English, but if you're
Well, he does
talking about other
both, he does both, yeah.
You don't want to initiate English reading or English social studies because it hampers their ability to learn French.
But at the expense of giving them no additional support?
Right, because I speak English at home, and so if I'm trying to support him at home, I guarantee it's in English.
Right.
Well, again, I just don't want to make it to about.
From a parent's standpoint, I'm just saying.
A student.
I get it, but again, my concern is all those kids, but and our concern primarily because we're below basic and basic, because we work. And then we cannot be flat out supporting kids who already professional impact. Okay? But the teachers are tracking it, that's what I'm saying. If a kid had a 4 in the first quarter and go down to 3 or to 2, then we already know before we go what kind of support needs to be done. But what I'm trying to say is, we're going down to the classroom and looking to the individual kids. That's what we're doing. Now, at this point, we don't have money problem. We will use whatever we can to support those kids.
And I think an area that might be interesting to explore are clubs, which are more on a voluntary basis, which, that might be able to address kids who are not, so there's a great math club right now, Mr. Bell, that's great. I don't know how many people go.
My son did math, my students in math club, yeah, that is true. I support the math club.
So that's the kind of stuff I think you might talk to kids who are not necessarily falling behind, but are in the middle and might be interested in doing more. So it's kind of more on an optional basis, and maybe their parents push them to do certain things. So there might be, having some investment there might be valuable. I don't know.
Well, again, thank you. I will allow the teachers what they need to be supported. And as I said, we have a discussion with teachers and see what do the individual need and kids to support them.
Yeah,
so,
and I think it's important if teachers know that we as a board are willing to give them, so that they don't feel like it's all on their shoulders to have the solutions, and that we as a board are there to support and use funds for things.
Again, our major problem is recruiting paraprofessionals and even teachers.
Yeah.
But as I said, we added 4 more interns just for that kind of support. And we added 2 paraprofessionals, one in English, one in French. And our goal was to hire 2 French paraprofessionals. We weren't able to do that. But again, it's something we are working on. And if you look at the performance of some of our minority has been most affected by COVID. If you go to prior to COVID and after COVID, people who dropped more in the COVID were minority students. Sharp drop, amazing, and then we're still struggling to get back to where we need to be. But
One
again,
more thing, don't forget those high schooler kids can be a great resource in providing that mentorship and support to our elementary kids. I don't know the logistics of all of this for AL, don't get me wrong, but I think that they can be a great resource in providing tutoring, mentoring, community service opportunity, community hours.
And then it builds that bridge between. Right now, I don't think middle school gets enough awareness of the high school until 8th grade, and so.
There's a lot of benefits. Again, I don't know all the details, and that's over here, but just an idea that I've seen great gains that way.
So the counterpoint to that, when we were doing the robotics club a few years back, we had some high school students come, and I don't know, they were really prepared to, maybe one step lucky, but it wasn't hugely helpful.
It takes a great teacher providing the support and kind of the training for those high schoolers. But if we want to build this pipeline of educators, we need to kind of start internal here. And if we want to think about teachers of the future here at AL, we better be thinking about bringing some of our best and brightest back to AL to be teachers. Just a thought.
So
You got some interns back as teachers this year?
Our plan is to hire. We try to get interns, but didn't work out. So we're going to hire 4 paraprofessionals. It's approved this year if you find them.
The problem is that pipeline is not very good either for paraprofessionals.
Well, I think since COVID, it has been a problem with hiring teachers, isn't it? But hopefully it will be. One other aspect that we need to see from the gap also is, remember, for the ethnicity gap in the whole, you look at the whole K8. But remember, we're taking now more this year, especially more this year, and they're tested. More outside kids were tested, were tested in this fall. And some of those kids are really 2 grades or more behind. But the great thing is, if you look at our API, it will be published maybe, our annual performance report from DESI will be published maybe next week. Academy Lafayette has grown, if you look at the growth, because they're looking at status and growth. Our growth is phenomenal, compared to what's happening, which means that we are growing our kids, whether it is subgroups and then the major groups. That's what it shows. So again, our teachers are doing a great job in our leadership. The thing is, we need to, this is a national issue, of course, this achievement gap for print reduced minority and so on. And we're working hard on this to make sure it's work. And it's going to be a multi-pronged approach, not only investing money, but working with parents and making sure the kids are at school and they learn.
We just want Academy Lafayette to be best.
Well, thank you. Again, I really appreciate the board's concern and this kind of discussion. It needs to keep going on until we all satisfied of what we're doing. And that's why I want to bring it all the way to the classroom, not here only. Because as I told you, I'm tired of coming here and we need to go and bring it to the classroom and support the teacher, give them and the principal the necessary support and staffing they need to make sure it works. Okay?
No, it's really good going down to the individual in the classroom, and I like that you're bringing in the discipline information as well, so we can see what trends are there. Are you also will we be able to look at it by gender?
Yeah, no, we don't do gender. Okay. Because we don't do gender. We just think that the issue we have, of course, girls generally outperform more and more, and it's all around the world, outperform boys. Even in Senegal, that's what you see. okay?
Power to the lady.
Okay, so here's what we see. And we think that we are looking here that we have a more of a gap in ethnicity and race. That's why we need to see and look at it. To introduce, we can't identify them in the classroom because we don't know which.
But your principal can look at that free and reduced.
Yeah, well, they can do it.
And triangulate that data, because that's a double whammy.
Well, yeah, yes, but at the end of the day, the classroom is looking at who is not performing.
Right.
We're crossing again the different data to come up with something. I think that in the next, if we continue doing what we're doing, I'm confident in the next 2 or 3 years, we'll see a good progression. Our teachers are doing a great job and doing on that. Okay?
I do think this one is an important topic for when we have our strategy sessions with several hours, like this should be one of the topics continuously that we go deep into for this very reason, just because of we're not seeing the type of growth in those performance metrics that we would like to.
Yeah, and closing those gaps, yes.
Yeah,
especially as we're getting access to the data and trying to analyze it, it makes sense for us to spend our time there.
I mean, that could be a whole topic for June.
I think Michelle attended the MCPSA conference. You remember who was talking about when she was a school board, something, the kind of report they received?
Yeah.
Here, I think we're doing a fantastic job at, number one, having a data calendar and then looking at things. No board member will know, I don't know what's going on. Okay? You get data regularly, this kind of data, in discipline, in anything, attendance, and this is something that we're doing really, really good. Okay? And doing the same thing at building level so that every teacher knows what's going on in their building and at the classroom level. But again, this gap has been exacerbated since the COVID. That's why we saw a drastic drop on minority performance, and they have been recovering much slower. We will get there.
My last comment is that I did see lots of games that was in a school that has students that have difficulties in class. But when involved as a student, it can't be just the adult solving the correct. With the students, they had to know where, they got their information back. They set a goal for themselves. And, and they kind of, even though they might have been in 9th grade, they colored it in. I scored here, this bar graph keeps going up because they're competitive. And sometimes the adults and the kids will sit there and let us do it all.
That's true.
They have to have ownership. And when they, I remember seeing a young man that was in, I saw him in the office. And so I knew he was like clever. And so I saw him privately, and I said, I would have never thought he was scored at a 7th grade level as smart as you appear to be. He said, well, I'm not at 7th grade level. I said, well, I took the test fast. And then the next time they took the test, because he knew somebody was looking at that he had, it was a reflection of him. He honestly did walk in 9th grade. He was 11, but he wasn't 7th grade, and so it was because he had this interest and he wanted everyone to know, not that 7th grade.
Yeah.
So I think having students, they have to own their learning and their somehow.
Well, on another question, I know you remember that in general, we Academy Lafayette outperformed all the suburban school districts, every category except for one is Blue Spring in mathematics. But our minority outperformed the minorities here. And in science, if you rank our kids, our minority kids, they're among the top 5% in the state. Our district's characteristic is this. we have more kids advanced than proficient. And you see a huge gap right there. You don't see it in any other district generally. We go and look at all other districts. You look at their percentage of advanced kids. We have more percentage of advanced kids than any other district generally. So now you have there a whole huge gap as opposed to districts that have in the middle. So, but that's a good thing to have, which means we have a steeper thing to climb, and it means also once we climb it, we become exceptional, which is good. We're working on that. Now, we just did this one.
Yeah, we talked about that.
Mistake.
That's okay.
Okay, that's good.
Yeah,
Only
we
one.
talked about
Now I'm gonna, how much?
Okay, yeah, it is 8:04.
8:04.
So let's highlight.
It's a good thing. That's why we change whatever we're doing to shares data. And then the district performance committee is doing a real job. They always give me a hard time and ask me to bring out this data, which is good.
But
That's
you,
fine.
in 5 years, I'm gonna tell you, you are doing a great job of putting that data up there compared to what it was 5 years ago. So you're listening to the committee, so thank you.
Thank you very much. Good.
That was truly a compliment.
Well, thank you very much. Maybe when I have a assistant superintendent, I'll do better, but that's fine. So, recognition, so Mr. Poncha, they organized the vote. He coordinated social study teacher, social study teacher, and fifth grade charity for the excellent initiative with mock elections. They had nominations, debates, primaries, and final vote. It was a wonderful real-world learning experience. So,
good.
Okay. Oak is recognizing Madam Alilash. She ensures the continuity of good collaborative culture in her grade level and beyond. She has a positive personality and is always prepared to take on new challenges to help her colleagues and students. And this is the recognition for Arma, Madam Lisi, who is our counselor, Madam Katie Wilson, who is the IB coordinator, and Jackson Berry, who is a interns, social worker interns, or counselor interns, sorry, for their commitment to promoting college readiness among our high school students. They recently chaperoned 14 students on a 3-day college tour to Drury University of Arkansas, and Missouri State.
It's pretty cool. Very cool. It's a great opportunity. It is a great opportunity.
Another great thing I told you we're tracking everything, and it's everything, including who is getting to IB and not. Yeah, it's fun to see data.
Do other schools do this where they take kids to?
Maybe like on a 1 day.
It's amazing.
I've never seen anything like a 3-day, but they'll do like a 1 day to K-State or KU, whatever. Yeah.
Leadership recognition, recognize Ali Stewart, Holly Virgil, Total, and then Alex Blaskar for the raffle ticket. Ali and Holly coordinated all this and helped reach the goals. Alex was helpful in the communication piece. And then City Fair, we had board members there. How we do that? I think when I arrived, you were leaving. And then we
She
have
saw you and ran.
admissions and outreach director, Robin King, is doing a great job now, and events coordinator, Holly also. Holly is being shared with 2 departments. She's doing a fantastic job, both sides, both ways. And again, double thank you to Holly. And the principals were there also. Heather was there, vice principals Mulai, Mary Mitch, and Dorothy was there also. And the board members, Michelle, Kelly, Edgar, and Pam. Thank you very much for helping. You have a great community. So this was something I prepared also to recognize the cross-country team. They won the Missouri Cross-Country Championship. Girls for the 4th title and boys for 3rd title. And then thanking the coaches, Brenda, Coach Monica, and Coach Hughes, and also the director of athletics, Mr. Jan. It was a great thing. We have created a legend now. Our school is amazing. You're doing a great job.
It's really good, and I know we're not supposed to talk about our own kids, but Olivia and I have daughters there on stage.
Oh, really, over there?
Yeah, they're on that.
Now finally, our board meeting is lagging. Our board But more kids now.
It's awesome. That's a really big deal. Big
Olivier's daughter has a medal around her neck too. So.
Wow.
But I think it's a really good example of a club that
Yes.
is thriving because of a very strong leader. Coach
Yes.
Brian is amazing. It attracts a lot of kids, and I think it has really from a writing of the school standpoint, it helps other school, it engages the kids. It's sort of, even though it's just a club, it's a side thing, I think it's a really important part of the school, and I think we should be doing more of those clubs to broaden the interest in kids. That's a way to keep students engaged, keep them in the school, and a way to retain
And this is
them.
lifelong.
Yeah, totally.
This is lifelong.
Yes.
And we have some of our former students doing,
Right.
competing high level in work.
And Coach Brian keeps engaging with the
Local program, 11th grade, as I just said, the student college tour, we could parent-teacher conferences held in late October. And then PD Day, generally in November, PD Day is asking our teachers to go and visit other schools to learn about it, and come back with different things and understanding things. It's one thing that is specific to Academy Lafayette too. We do, and we do also quarterly retreat, the same data you're talking about. With my admin team, we look at all this data and talk about it. Talk about admission, talk about all kind of challenges we have. I think the goal, of course, is to align every level of our school, from the classroom to the building, to the district level, like central office, and then to the board of directors, looking at the same data and having the same conversation. So the bullying data is being collected and analyzed in schools. We are planning to share the bullying data with the buildings, I think it's this Wednesday. Because we have, every month, we have one Wednesday where it is called data thing. That's when the buildings share their data with all the schools, the team. So I just told you about this, the individual dashboard we're doing. And then one more thing that we started this year is the Urban French test. We're testing, it's an outside company in California. It's like NWA, but in French. We're testing 4th grade, 6th grade, 7th, and 9th grade or 10th grade. So just to see where we are and then build. So that's another thing. Again, it's part of our.
Is it for French or is it math in French? Is it all?
No, it's just the French language. It's just the French language. So what you do it. Admissions, we, as I just told you again, Robin King is back to be the director of admissions and outreach, and she's working with Holly and creating these open houses in October, and then also enrolling new kids. We have the Brookside Charter High School Fair, attending it on the 29th. And the City Fair was last Sunday. Upcoming November 9th, application open is school application for 25-26 school year. You know, we are part of the Common App. For those who do not know, so everybody's applying. So we have a cherry, we'll be having a cherry open house on December 5th. And then Saturday open house for on January 25th. So we are also working on hiring an admission and recruitment coordinator. It's part of our budget. We hopefully find somebody. Operation security gates have been installed, chain off, because at night people go put their night or weekend put their stuff on our dumpsters or parking the car. It's like those small gates that we have. And then roof bids was received. We'll talk about it. Hartford Insurance Facilities checklist completed, and JoJo donation for $100 for gift for teachers and food also. We do every year, we try to do a picnic for new teachers or new staff and invite everyone to build the the culture of collaboration culture. Transparent training is good. I started. Transparent is for the buses software, and we pass the 3 inspections for the 3 locations. This is one thing I just want to inform you. The Cornell Foundation president is visiting us tomorrow. She's already here certainly, but Cornell Foundation is based in New York, and she'll be here tomorrow and on Wednesday. They are the sponsor of 6 of our AL teachers J1 visa. We use 2 organizations to sponsor us. Amity Institute in the West Coast, and then Cornell in New York. So it helps facilitate whatever, depending on what we have. So generally, I have been working with her for a long, long time. She was my teacher's sponsor in Portland, and back then she used to come and visit at least once every other year. But she has not visited here for the last 12 years I've been here, so she was trying to come. And when she comes, she will tour the buildings and observe teachers. It's part of the program she's doing. So hopefully every other year she will be visiting and build that partnership. I think I'm done. Any question, anybody, anything about the schools?
Do we need to vote on the oak roof replacement? What's the status of that?
The oak what?
The oak roof replacement.
It is a closed session.
We're going into closed session.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah,
The closed session.
which is the bulk of my report is, sorry, we're going into closed session. But I think it's, I don't think it will be long. And yes, yeah, so the other thing is, Beth, did you get feedback from everybody on the doodle poll for our board happy hour?
Yes,
Or do we-
January 28th, we will all see
Okay.
and invite for that.
Okay, awesome, good. All right, so, yeah, that's, we need to go into closed session to discuss a legal and a purchasing matter. And so we will take, I need a motion to move into closed session, and then we'll do a roll call vote. So can I get a motion to move into closed session?
Move to go into closed session
Okay?
for the legal and
construction
construction
matters.
matters. Sorry.
All right, can I get a roll call vote? Olivier?
Aye.
Jen?
Aye.
Pam?
Yes.
Beth?
Yes.
Michelle? Yes.
Gwen, yes.
Nathaniel? Lisa? And then on, do we still have Kelly on?
Yes.
Okay. All right, so let's take 3 minutes. We'll get off of YouTube. And
Who seconded that?
Beth, yeah.